The chocolate cake trembled in my hands as I stood frozen outside the restaurant's private dining room. Through the glass doors, I could see my son Kevin celebrating his 25th birthday with his friends. I had spent 3 hours making his favorite cake from scratch, just like when he was little. Honestly, guys, Kevin's voice carried clearly through the door. My mom thinks she's so important because she pays for everything. She acts like I owe her something just because she chose to have me. His friends laughed as he continued. The truth is, she means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just waiting for her to die so I can inherit everything without dealing with her constant nagging. My heart shattered like glass hitting concrete. 25 years of sleepless nights, sacrificed dreams, and unconditional love meant nothing to him. The cake slipped from my numb fingers, splattering across the marble floor. But as I stared at the mess, something cold and calculating replaced the pain in my chest. If I meant nothing to Kevin, then he was about to discover what nothing really felt like. Subscribe for more powerful revenge stories. Like, comment, and share your location. I drove home in stunned silence, Kevin's words echoing in my mind. 25 years ago, I was a promising law student with a full scholarship to Yale. Then I got pregnant with Kevin. His father disappeared the moment he heard the news, leaving me to choose between my dreams and my unborn child. I chose Kevin. I dropped out of law school, worked 3 jobs to pay for baby formula and diapers. When Kevin got sick, I sold my grandmother's jewelry to pay for his medical bills. When he wanted piano lessons, I cleaned houses on weekends to afford them. When he dreamed of studying abroad in college, I took out loans that I'm still paying today. I gave him everything. Private schools, expensive clothes, a car for his 16th birthday, a college fund that I built penny by penny. I thought I was raising a grateful, loving son. Instead, I had created a monster who saw my love as weakness and my sacrifices as obligations. The house felt empty when I walked inside. Kevin's belongings were scattered everywhere. His expensive gaming system, designer clothes, the laptop I bought him last Christmas. All bought with money I earned while he studied and partied. Tonight, everything would change. Kevin had always been charming in public. Teachers loved him. Neighbors praised his manners. And my friends constantly told me how lucky I was to have such a perfect son. If only they knew the truth. At home, Kevin treated me like a servant. He never cleaned, never cooked, never even put his dishes in the dishwasher. When I asked for help, he would roll his eyes and say, "That's what you're for, Mom." When I tried to discuss his future plans, he would snap, "Stop trying to control my life." Last month, I had suggested he get a part-time job to learn responsibility. Kevin had laughed in my face. "Why would I work when you pay for everything? You're basically my personal ATM." When I mentioned that other parents expected their adult children to contribute, he said, "Other parents aren't as desperate for their kids' approval as you are." The cruelty was casual, constant, and crushing. But tonight's revelation was different. Tonight, I learned that beneath his entitled behavior was genuine contempt. He didn't just take me for granted. He actively despised me while planning to profit from my death. I sat in my empty living room, surrounded by evidence of Kevin's privileged life, and felt something inside me shift permanently. The time for unconditional love was over. My phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. "Mom, can you send me $500? Going out with friends after dinner. Thanks." No please, no explanation, just an expectation that I would instantly provide whatever he wanted. This was our normal dynamic, Kevin demanded, and I delivered. But tonight I saw it differently. This wasn't a son asking his mother for help. This was a parasite extracting resources from its host. I scrolled through our recent text conversations. Need money for gas. Pay my credit card bill. Transfer funds for spring break. Dozens of demands disguised as requests, all ending with casual thanks that felt more like dismissal than gratitude. I thought about the college friends I had lost touch with while working multiple jobs to support Kevin. The promotions I had turned down because they required travel, and I couldn't leave him alone. The romantic relationships I had sabotaged because no man could compete with my devotion to my son. Kevin had consumed my entire life, leaving nothing for me. No savings, no retirement plan, no personal relationships. At 50 years old, I existed solely to fund his comfort and convenience. But the worst part wasn't the financial drain or the social isolation. It was the realization that I had enabled this monster through my own desperation to be loved. Enjoy our revenge stories? Subscribe, like, and drop your location in the comments. I walked through the house, cataloging everything I had bought for Kevin. The 65-inch television in his room, $2,000. The gaming computer, $3,500. The designer sneaker collection, easily $5,000. His car, parked in our driveway, had cost me $25,000 last year. In the kitchen, I opened the refrigerator stocked with his favorite foods. Organic everything, expensive cuts of meat, imported cheese. Kevin had specific tastes and zero tolerance for generic brands. Last week he had thrown a container of regular yogurt in the trash, saying, "Why do you even buy this garbage? You know I only eat the Greek kind." I calculated the monthly cost of maintaining Kevin's lifestyle. Rent for this house, utilities, insurance, food, entertainment, his credit card bills, and the countless emergencies that required immediate financial rescue. Nearly $4,000 per month went directly to supporting someone who considered me worthless. My own bedroom was furnished with second-hand furniture and discount store bedding. I couldn't remember the last time I had bought myself new clothes or taken a vacation. Every dollar I earned went toward Kevin's comfort while I lived like a pauper in my own home. The financial abuse had been so gradual that I hadn't recognized it until tonight. But now I saw the pattern clearly. Kevin had systematically trained me to prioritize his wants over my needs. Watching our revenge stories? Show love. Subscribe, like, and tell us where you're from. At midnight, Kevin stumbled through the front door, reeking of alcohol and expensive cologne. He was laughing loudly on his phone, probably recounting more jokes about his pathetic mother to his equally spoiled friends. "Mom," he shouted toward my bedroom, "I need you to pick up Tyler and bring him here. His car won't start and I promised he could crash in the guest room." I appeared in the hallway wearing my bathrobe, studying this young man I had raised but clearly never known. "It's midnight, Kevin. I'm not driving anywhere." His expression shifted to the entitled anger I knew so well. "Seriously? It's just a quick drive. Stop being difficult. Find another solution." Kevin's face flushed red. "What's your problem tonight? You're acting weird. Just do what I asked. It's not a big deal for you." The casual assumption that my time, my car, my sleep meant nothing to him was breathtaking in its audacity. This wasn't a son making an emergency request. This was a master ordering his servant to perform a task. "No, Kevin. Handle your own problems." He stared at me like I had spoken a foreign language. In 25 years, I had never refused one of his requests. The word no simply didn't exist in our relationship vocabulary. "Fine," he snapped. "Be selfish. I'll remember this next time you want something from me." The threat was laughable. Kevin had never done anything for me in his entire adult life. The next morning, I was cleaning Kevin's room while he slept until noon, his usual schedule. His phone, charging on the nightstand, kept buzzing with notifications. When it lit up, I saw a group chat called Trust Fund Babies with Kevin and his friends. Curiosity got the better of me. The conversation was about me. "Tyler. Dude, your mom looked pissed last night. What's her deal?" "Kevin. She's going through some weird control phase. Thinks she can start saying no to stuff. It's pathetic." "Austin. My mom tried that once. Just stopped talking to her for a week, and she came crawling back." "Kevin. Exactly. She needs me more than I need her. Where else is she gonna get validation? She has no friends, no life, nothing. I'm literally all she has." The cruelty was casual, calculated, and devastatingly accurate. Kevin understood exactly how isolated and dependent I had become. Worse, he was strategizing with his friends about how to manipulate my loneliness to maintain his control. "Austin. How much longer you gonna milk the situation?" "Kevin. Until she dies, probably. She's already 50, so hopefully not too much longer. Then I inherit everything and can finally live my real life." My hands shook as I read his response. Not only was Kevin waiting for my death, he was impatient about it. I took screenshots of the entire conversation and forwarded them to my personal email. Evidence would be important for what came next. I spent the weekend researching estate attorneys and found Patricia Wells, a sharp woman in her 60s who specialized in complex family situations. Her office walls were lined with law books and photos of her winning high-profile cases. "I need to revise my will," I told her, sliding the printed screenshots across her mahogany desk. "My son is expecting to inherit everything when I die. I want to make sure that doesn't happen." Patricia read through Kevin's text messages, her expression growing more disgusted with each line. "These are some of the most callous statements I've ever seen from a child about their parent. How long has this behavior been going on?" 25 years, but I was too blind to see it clearly. I felt strangely calm discussing Kevin's betrayal with a stranger. "I want him completely removed from my will." "That's certainly possible. Do you have other family members you'd prefer to inherit?" "No family. I want everything to go to charity, specifically organizations that help single mothers get college educations. The dreams I gave up for Kevin should help other women achieve theirs." Patricia smiled grimly. "Poetic justice. I like it. We can also include provisions that prevent him from contesting the will, and I'll recommend we videotape your statement explaining your decisions." As we worked through the details, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades: control over my own life. Kevin was about to learn that counting on someone's death was a dangerous game. Patricia recommended I hire a private investigator to document Kevin's lifestyle and spending habits. "If he ever tries to claim he was financially dependent on you, we'll need evidence of his choices." Michael Torres was a former police detective who specialized in family cases. Within a week, he had compiled a detailed report on Kevin's activities. The findings were eye-opening. Kevin went out 4 nights a week, spending an average of $200 per evening on drinks, food, and entertainment. He had a secret credit card I didn't know about, maxed out at $15,000, which he used for designer clothes and electronics. Most shocking, he had been selling some of the expensive gifts I had bought him to fund his party lifestyle. "Your son has been treating your generosity like a business," Michael explained, showing me photos of Kevin's possessions listed on various selling websites. "He's created multiple income streams from your gifts, selling, trading, even renting out electronics to friends." The Nintendo gaming system I had bought him for Christmas was currently listed for sale online. The watch I gave him for his college graduation had been sold months ago. Kevin had been systematically converting my love into cash, while complaining that I wasn't generous enough. Michael also discovered that Kevin had been researching the value of our house and my life insurance policy. He had visited real estate websites, calculated potential inheritance amounts, and even looked into how quickly probate proceedings typically took. My son wasn't just waiting for me to die, he was planning for it. The most shocking discovery came when Michael investigated Kevin's college expenses. I had been sending him $1,500 monthly for living expenses throughout his 4 years of school, believing he was struggling financially and focusing on his studies. In reality, Kevin had been telling his friends that I had established a trust fund for him. He claimed to be wealthy, using my money to maintain an image of privilege among his social circle. He hosted expensive parties, picked up dinner tabs, and bought rounds of drinks, all funded by the woman he claimed meant nothing to him. Michael showed me Kevin's social media posts from college. Photos of expensive restaurant meals, designer clothes, luxury spring break trips, all captioned with humble brags about his family money and inheritance. He had built his entire social identity around wealth I provided while painting me as a clingy, desperate mother. "Your son has been living a double life," Michael explained. To his friends, he's a trust fund kid whose mother is just a minor inconvenience. To you, he's a struggling student who needs constant support. He's been manipulating both narratives to maximize his benefits. The betrayal was more sophisticated than I had imagined. Kevin wasn't just ungrateful. He was a skilled con artist who had been running a long-term scam on his own mother. I realized I had never known my son at all. Kevin's college graduation was approaching, and he had been dropping hints about the expensive gift he expected. "All my friends are getting cars or down payments for apartments," he mentioned casually. "Tyler's parents bought him a BMW. Austin's getting a condo." I had already been planning to give Kevin $50,000 as a graduation gift. money I had saved by working overtime and skipping meals. But now I saw this expectation differently. This wasn't a son hoping for his mother's generosity. This was a con artist setting up his next score. Instead of the cash gift Kevin expected, I decided to give him something far more valuable. The truth. I arranged a graduation party at our house, inviting all his friends and their families. Kevin was thrilled, assuming this meant I was planning something extravagant. He spent the week bragging to everyone about his amazing mom and the incredible surprise she had planned. The irony was perfect. For once, Kevin's expectations were completely accurate. I was definitely planning an incredible surprise. I hired a professional videographer to document the celebration, telling Kevin it was to preserve memories of his achievement. What he didn't know was that this video would serve a very different purpose. As the guests gathered in our backyard, Kevin glowed with anticipation. He kept checking his phone, probably calculating how much money he expected to receive and how he would spend it. The gift table sat empty except for one small envelope with Kevin's name on it. As the party reached its peak, I called for everyone's attention. Kevin beamed with pride, believing his moment of triumph had arrived. His friends gathered around, phones ready to capture what they assumed would be another display of maternal generosity. "Thank you all for celebrating Kevin's graduation with us," I began, holding the small envelope. As Kevin's mother, I wanted to share some thoughts about the young man he's become. Kevin nodded enthusiastically, probably expecting a tearful speech about my pride and love. Instead, I pulled out my phone and began reading directly from his text messages. Kevin recently wrote to his friends, "My mom thinks she's so important because she pays for everything. The truth is, she means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just waiting for her to die so I can inherit everything." The silence was deafening. Kevin's face went white as I continued reading his most damaging messages, including his complaints about supporting his pathetic mother and his calculations about inheritance timing. "These messages were sent last week," I explained to the shocked crowd. "After 25 years of sacrifice, I've learned exactly what my son thinks of me." Kevin's friends stared at him with a mixture of embarrassment and disgust. Parents in the crowd looked horrified. The professional, successful adults I had invited were witnessing the complete destruction of Kevin's carefully constructed image. "Mom, stop," Kevin whispered. But I was just getting started. I had prepared a detailed presentation about Kevin's actual financial situation, complete with charts and documentation. The videographer captured every moment as I revealed the truth to his friends and their families. "Kevin has told you all that he comes from a wealthy family with a trust fund," I continued, projecting bank statements onto the outdoor screen I had rented for the occasion. "The reality is that every dollar he spends comes from my minimum wage jobs." I showed the crowd my pay stubs, my credit card statements, and the detailed breakdown of Kevin's monthly expenses. The numbers were staggering. I had spent over $200,000 supporting Kevin's lifestyle during his 4 years of college alone. While I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for his expenses, Kevin was telling you that I was a burden on his life, I explained. He funded his social status by pretending to despise the woman who made it all possible. Tyler and Austin looked mortified. They had been bragging about their own family wealth while Kevin secretly competed using money extracted from his struggling mother. The entire social dynamic they had built was based on lies. The BMW Kevin admired belongs to Tyler's family business. The condo Austin received was a gift from his lawyer parents. Kevin's contributions to your group came from a 50-year-old woman working multiple jobs to keep her son happy. Kevin stood frozen in the center of his own social destruction, unable to deny the evidence but equally unable to explain his behavior. His carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time, captured on video for posterity. Finally, I approached Kevin with the small envelope that contained his graduation gift. The crowd watched in fascination as he opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a bill. "This is an itemized invoice for every dollar I spent supporting you through college," I announced. "The total comes to $247,000, including interest calculated at standard lending rates." Kevin stared at the document in disbelief. The numbers were accurate, detailed, and legally documented. Every textbook, every meal plan, every emergency fund transfer, every monthly allowance, all calculated with business-like precision. Since you've made it clear that you view our relationship as purely transactional, I've decided to treat it accordingly, I continued. This debt is now due and payable. You have 30 days to arrange repayment terms. The crowd erupted in whispers. Some guests looked angry at Kevin's behavior, others seemed shocked by my response. Kevin's friends appeared mortified that their social circle had been exposed as built on lies and manipulation. This is insane. Kevin finally found his voice. You can't charge your own son for supporting him through college. You're right, I replied calmly. A mother can't charge her son. But an ATM machine charges for every transaction. Patricia Wells stepped forward from the crowd. I had invited her as a special guest to witness this moment. The debt is legally enforceable, she announced. We have documentation of every expense, plus Mr. Johnson's own statements about his financial expectations. The video of Kevin's graduation party went viral within hours. Someone had secretly recorded my speech and posted it online with the caption, "Son gets billed by mom for college after saying she means nothing." Comments poured in from around the world. Parents shared their own stories of ungrateful children, financial abuse, and emotional manipulation. Young adults expressed horror at Kevin's behavior and support for my response. The video had touched a nerve about family dynamics, generational entitlement, and the cost of unconditional love. Kevin's social media accounts were flooded with criticism. His friends stopped answering his calls. The job interviews he had scheduled were mysteriously canceled after potential employers discovered the viral video. You've ruined my life, Kevin accused me that evening. No one will ever hire me now. My friends won't talk to me. You've destroyed everything. I've revealed everything. I corrected. The destruction was already there. I just made it visible. Kevin had spent years building relationships based on lies about his wealth and character. When the truth was exposed, those relationships crumbled because they had never been real. The job opportunities disappeared because employers could see his true attitude toward responsibility and gratitude. This is all your fault, he continued. You made me this way by spoiling me. For the first time, Kevin was accidentally telling the truth. I had created this monster by enabling his behavior for 25 years. But that was about to change permanently. 3 days after the graduation party, I served Kevin with a formal eviction notice. Since he was over 18 and had no lease agreement, I could legally require him to vacate my property within 30 days. You can't kick me out, Kevin protested. This is my home. This is my house, I replied. You're an adult guest who has overstayed his welcome. Kevin had never paid rent, utilities, or any household expenses. He had no legal rights to continue living in my home, especially now that he had made his true feelings clear. The eviction notice was perfectly legal and would be enforced by the courts if necessary. Where am I supposed to go? Kevin asked, his entitlement finally giving way to genuine panic. That's not my problem anymore, I said, using the same casual tone he had used when dismissing my feelings for years. You're an adult. Figure it out. The irony was delicious. Kevin had spent years telling me to stop treating him like a child, demanding independence and freedom from my control. Now he was terrified to actually experience the independence he had claimed to want. I don't have any money, he admitted. My credit cards are maxed out, and I don't have a job yet. You have 30 days to solve those problems, I replied. Maybe you can sell some of your expensive possessions. Oh wait, you already did that without telling me. Michael Torres had documented Kevin's secret sales, providing evidence that he had been converting my gifts to cash for months. The next morning, I went to the bank and closed all accounts that Kevin had access to. This included the checking account I had opened for his college expenses and the savings account I had been building for his future. The bank manager, Mrs. Rodriguez, looked concerned as she processed the paperwork. Are you sure about this, Mrs. Johnson? Your son has been using these accounts for years. That's exactly the problem, I replied. He's been treating my money like his inheritance instead of understanding it as support that can be withdrawn. Kevin discovered the account closures when his debit card was declined at lunch with friends. The embarrassment of being unable to pay for his meal in front of his social circle was immediate and public. He called me screaming, "You can't cut off my accounts. I need that money. You need to earn your own money," I replied calmly. 25 years old is too old to be financially dependent on someone who means nothing to you. "I didn't mean what I said at the restaurant," Kevin backtracked desperately. "I was just trying to impress my friends. You know I love you." The manipulation was textbook: deny, minimize, then love bomb. Kevin had probably used this exact sequence hundreds of times to restore his privileges after crossing a line. But this time, I wasn't falling for it. "Your text messages suggest otherwise," I replied. "You've been planning my death and calculating your inheritance. That doesn't sound like love to me." With his accounts closed and eviction looming, Kevin was forced to search for employment. However, his viral video had made him virtually unemployable. Every interview ended badly when employers recognized him or discovered his online infamy. "This isn't fair," Kevin complained after another rejection. "One mistake shouldn't ruin my entire career." "It wasn't one mistake," I corrected. "It was 25 years of character development. Employers can see who you really are now." Kevin had no work experience, no references from authority figures who respected him, and no track record of responsibility or reliability. His college degree was worthless without the character to support it. Desperate, he tried to get jobs at fast food restaurants and retail stores. But even entry-level managers were hesitant to hire someone whose attitude toward authority and gratitude had been broadcast to millions of people. "You have to help me," Kevin begged. "Call these places and tell them I'm a good worker." "I've never seen you work," I replied honestly. "I can't recommend someone who has spent his entire adult life avoiding responsibility." Kevin was learning that reputation has real-world consequences. The image he had cultivated as an entitled, ungrateful parasite was now his professional brand, and no amount of desperation could change that overnight. The privilege he had taken for granted was gone, and he lacked the skills or character to rebuild his life independently. On day 25 of Kevin's eviction notice, I invited him to lunch at the same restaurant where I had first overheard his cruel words about me. The private dining room was empty except for us and Patricia Wells, who had brought important documents. "I wanted you to understand your true financial situation," I began, sliding a folder across the table. "Since you've been planning for my inheritance, you should know what you're actually inheriting." Kevin opened the folder eagerly, probably expecting to see bank statements and property valuations that would restore his hope for future wealth. Instead, he found my revised will. "Everything goes to charity," Patricia explained as Kevin read the document. "Your mother's entire estate will fund college scholarships for single mothers, women who sacrifice their dreams to raise ungrateful children." Kevin's face went through a rapid sequence of emotions: confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally desperate panic. "You can't do this. I'm your only family. Family members don't wish for each other's death," I replied. "You made it clear that you see me as a financial resource, not a mother. I've decided to redirect that resource toward people who will actually appreciate it." "But what about the house? What about your life insurance? What about everything you've saved? All going to help other women achieve the law degree I gave up to raise you," I said. "Your inheritance will fund exactly $0 of your future comfort." Kevin stared at the will in horror, finally understanding that his long-term financial plan had just evaporated. The death he had been hoping for would now leave him with nothing but debt and unemployment. Kevin spent his last days in my house frantically trying to repair the damage he had caused. He apologized repeatedly, claimed his previous statements were lies, and promised to change his behavior completely. "I'll get a job," he pleaded. "I'll pay rent. I'll contribute to household expenses. Just don't throw me out with nothing." "You should have thought about that before planning my funeral," I replied. "Actions have consequences, Kevin. You're 25 years old. It's time you learned that." He tried every manipulation tactic he had perfected over the years. Tears, anger, guilt trips, promises, threats. Nothing worked. I had finally developed immunity to his emotional abuse. On his final evening, Kevin packed his belongings into garbage bags and boxes. His expensive possessions looked pathetic and childish scattered across his bedroom floor. Designer clothes and gaming equipment couldn't hide the fact that he had never developed any real skills or character. "You're going to regret this," he said as he loaded his car. "When you're old and alone, you'll wish you had treated me better." "I'm already alone," I replied. "I've been alone for 25 years while supporting someone who despised me. The only difference now is that I'm choosing my solitude instead of having it forced on me." Kevin drove away without looking back, carrying everything he owned in a car I had bought him. For the first time in decades, my house was completely quiet. The silence in my house felt strange at first. For 25 years, I had oriented my entire life around Kevin's needs, schedule, and demands. Without him, I had to rediscover who I was as an individual rather than just a mother. I started small. I bought myself new bedding, soft, expensive sheets in a color I actually liked. I stocked the refrigerator with foods I enjoyed instead of Kevin's expensive preferences. I took long baths without worrying about someone needing the bathroom or complaining about the noise. The financial relief was immediate and dramatic. Without Kevin's expenses, I had an extra $4,000 per month to spend on myself. I paid off my credit cards, started a real savings account, and began researching the college programs I had abandoned 25 years ago. 3 months later, I enrolled in night classes at the local community college, working toward the law degree I had always wanted. My classmates were mostly other adults who had postponed their education for family responsibilities. We understood each other's sacrifices and supported each other's dreams. I made friends, real friends who liked me for who I was, not what I could provide for them. We went to movies, shared meals, and had conversations about topics other than money and obligations. For the first time in my adult life, I was living for myself instead of being consumed by someone else's needs. Through social media and mutual acquaintances, I learned about Kevin's struggles to build an independent life. He had moved in with Tyler's family temporarily, but was asked to leave after 2 weeks when he couldn't contribute to household expenses. He bounced between friends' couches for several months, eventually landing in a small studio apartment that consumed most of his income from a part-time retail job. The work was hard, the pay was low, and the customers often treated him with the same disrespect he had shown me for years. His social circle had completely disintegrated. The friends who had once celebrated his wealth by proxy no longer returned his calls. Without money to fund his generous persona, Kevin discovered that his relationships had been purely transactional. "He's not the same person," Tyler told someone at a local coffee shop where I overheard their conversation. "He's become bitter and angry about everything, always complaining about how unfair life is." Kevin was experiencing the natural consequences of his choices, but instead of learning from them, he was doubling down on his victim mentality. He blamed me for his problems rather than accepting responsibility for his behavior. The irony was perfect. Kevin had gotten exactly what he claimed to want, freedom from my control and interference. But without my financial support, that freedom felt like abandonment. 18 months after Kevin moved out, he sent me a text message. "Mom, I'm in the hospital. I need help." Every maternal instinct I had developed over 25 years screamed at me to rush to his aid. But I had learned to distinguish between love and enablement. I called the hospital directly to confirm that Kevin was stable and receiving appropriate care, then sent him a response. "I hope you recover quickly. The hospital's social worker can help you with discharge planning." Kevin called me crying. "I can't believe you won't even visit me. What kind of mother abandons their child in the hospital?" "The kind whose child wished for her death," I replied calmly. "You made it clear that you don't want me in your life. I'm respecting your choice." "I was young and stupid," Kevin pleaded. "I've learned my lesson. I know I was wrong." "Then prove it by building a life that doesn't require my rescue," I suggested. "Show me through your actions over time, not your words during a crisis."